Hello again, welcome to our webinar about powerful document automation with Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, Office 365 and Dox42. We would like to welcome you today. Thanks for joining us. My name is Denise Valentin. I'm Business Technology Evangelist at Dox42, and I'm here today with my colleague Johannes Linder.
Hi everyone, I'm Johannes Linder. I'm Lead Technical Evangelist at Dox42. And I'm very much looking forward to today to showing you some cool stuff on how you can actually automate your documents in Office 365, Dynamics 365, and of course with our focus today, Finance and Operations.
All right, then let's have a look at our agenda for today. Here we go. So Johannes is going to start off with a short introduction on Dox42. Later on, we're going to do a live demo in which we will see Finance and Operations, how to work with Dox42 within that application, how to set it up basically, and also how to generate a report directly from there. Later on, we're also going to look into SharePoint and the library our templates are stored. And lastly, we're going to look into the template design in more detail, which is done in Microsoft Office. Optionally, we can also look into Microsoft Teams. We'll see how much time we've got left. At the end, we're going to have a few more minutes, hopefully have a few more minutes left for a Q&A session. So please use the chat panel to ask anything you would like to know. Also, we would like you to try it out right now. You can go ahead and use it. Please let us know if you can hear us well, if the audio is just fine. You can do that right now. All right.
Seems like it works. All right.
Cool. Then I would say let's start. Johannes, you ready?
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, like Denise said, first off, let's start with Dox42 and the thought we had when we started with Dox42. So, clicker. So yeah, when it's about automating your documents, usually you have a challenge in terms of different groups that are involved in document generation. And one thing that comes to mind is, of course, there's IT involved, then there's marketing involved, and also then there's the business users involved. And all of them have different questions. So, for example, for IT, it's always about data integration, on how you can develop a nice-looking report. In terms of marketing, and you want to have a nice-looking CE, everything should work fine. And the business users, they know what should be in the documents. So, for example, if you think about a sales invoice, what we want to have is that the sales invoice has, for example, conditions, and based on a country, you want to have a text block that's in there just to see what's happening. Now, what Dox42 makes possible is all of these three can work in their core competency. So you will have the option that, for example, IT, they will do the data integration, while business users and marketing users, they can work directly in Microsoft Office and generate those documents. Yeah, eventually you have a slim process that allows you for a very easy integration. In terms if there's any changes in the documents, you can do that right away. About Dox42, I'm glad that there's, we checked the invitation list. So we've seen a lot of new faces there, or at least a lot of new names. And so let me just give you a quick introduction on what Dox42 does. Dox42, we are obviously a tool for document generation, and our main part for us is the USP that you can do the document design in Office, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, while the output is still in your application. And we'll see that later on there's a lot of different integrations. Today we will focus on Finance and Operations. And if you check the lower part of that slide, you will see that there's basically all industries included in different Dox42 scenarios already. So we have transport, we have manufacturing, basically everywhere there's a document, invoicing, quotes, PowerPoint presentations, or also email output directly. You can do that with Dox42. One reference customer that we'd like to pick out for this webinar today is ABB. ABB in this case are doing it with their Dynamics CRM system. But what they do is they do all the sales and service automation as an output document with Dox42. And yeah, that with ABB is something that keeps happening with quite a lot of customers. So the Dox42 grows in an organization. So you first off start, for example, with sales invoices in Dynamics CRM. As a second step, you realize the same potential you want to use in HR. And then after some time, there's also much more that's coming. And like it happened with ABB, and like it happened with also a lot of other customers. Now let's talk about a little bit about the techniques. So the add-in, as we said, is in Microsoft Office. So Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, like you're used to. And everything that you want to change in terms of design, you can do there. So on the slide that you currently see, you see that there are the blue fields, and all those blue fields get comfortably integrated with the data that you have already selected to be inserted there. And you see in this document, we have charts, we of course have text data, we have image data, and also we have repetitions with, like we do see in the table, for different countries that you can also combine with conditions. Speaking of the data sources, we mentioned that it's not only finance and operations. Dox42 can be integrated into many, many applications in terms of, one hand, the data sources, but also in terms of the output and the way you trigger the document generation. So like we've seen today with finance and operations, in there we could also have data from CE coming. We could combine this with SharePoint, like we see in the document with an advertisement that we include. But all the rest of them that you see right there can also be integrated very easily. As a server gets, or the document gets an input, it will also need some time of output, right? And the Dox42 server is very flexible also in terms of the output. The standard scenarios usually is to open the document, either in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, also of course PDF, like we always wanted, or in most cases we wanted. But still, if you still want to change something, you can decide one time I go for PDF, the other time I go for a Word document. Then an output that we also see today is SharePoint. So we'll have the document archived automatically in SharePoint. Yeah, then since SharePoint and Teams are getting closer together, they will also be, well, there's the obvious integration scenario that we have there too. And we also see emails today, so sending an email right away from Dynamics Finance and Operations. You can work with printers, and there's also other creative options like text messaging, images, HTML outputs like it is with emails, SQL, and you can have a custom input. Like, for example, if you have a DMS that you want to integrate, there is the option, if it's not something that we can do out of the box, you can do it with a custom integration. The server itself can either be in your system or it can be our cloud-based solution. So Dox42 Online is the SaaS option that we offer. The server itself is your server. Dox42 Online is hosted by us, but we also take care of the updates, of anything that should be done on the server, as well as the hosting, of course. And the limits that we have on this is 100,000 documents per month, but you get the full integration in terms of security as it is with Azure AD. So you get it connected with your Azure AD and all the user privileges or the rights that somebody has within Azure, he also has with Dox42. Yeah, so much for the theoretical integration. Let's start with the live demo right away. No worries, I'll start stop sharing my webcam for the moment. Okay. Then let's switch to finance and operations. And in here, we want to start, just going to quickly remove my GoToMeeting panel. So we want to start with invoices. So as it is with the standard invoice journal. And in here, let's just take a very new one. So let's take this, for example. And in here, we can click on, as it is with the standards, with SSRS, also with the business documents. In here, we can click on original preview. And this is going to trigger the Dox42, in this case, online. So we're in a full cloud integration today. And this will pull a document that's in Office 365 and automate the data in there automatically, and then show it to us right away in finance and operations. All right, so there we are, a very simple document where we also see the template later on. Denise will do that. And yeah, in here we have the header, of course, and there's information from finance and operations header, footer templates, tables that are based on the sales invoice report. Then we have the sales invoice lines that get repeated. All of this with images, as well as a turn from landscape to portrait. So all of the design options that you see right there are all standard Office design options, since we are really working with Word for the template format in this case. In order to configure such a report, we will have a look into the Dox42 parameters. Dox42 parameters is something that you add with directly in finance and operations. And in here, if you work with the system administration and then check for Dox42, based on the lifecycle services is the way to integrate. They have the Dox42 parameters, as well as some other configurations for email senders and for SharePoint output sites. So we have an automated archiving in SharePoint as well. Now let's have a look on the Dox42 parameters. First off, the general, where we define the service, which is just a basic configuration that you keep like this for the entire time. The most important part we'll have a look on today is the reports, as well as the data entities. So we have two options of reports. One, where we actually take the report as the data source. The other, where we take a data entity, and we will generate a vendor document later on directly from Finance and Operations as well. If we check the reports in here, you can, if you decide to include a new report with Dox42, take any report that you already have with SSRS and then replace it with Dox42. The only difference you need to do is you need to enable it here, and of course you need to set up a template first, and then you're ready to go with the generation directly from Finance and Operations. Let's just delete this here since there's no data in here. Like I mentioned, we also have data entities, data entity reports. And if we check the data entities down here, you see there's a very similar setup for a root data entity. And if I have a look on this root data entity, you will see in here that we have all the information that we already get provided by Finance and Operations. But for example, in here, there is, let's take the property management, for example, and up here we have a Dox42 button that allows us to generate the document at the screen. Perfect. So that's our vendor report, and there is no report logic in it. It's just the data entity that we pull from Finance and Operations to get the data inserted. Great. Now that I've shown you the basic setup, what I want to show you is also that what happens in the background, or what you can also do, not just opening the document, but also to email it or to save it to SharePoint right away. And first off, let's start with the email. So if we go back to our invoice, we have configured the print management to be automatically combined with Dox42. And if we start this here, we'll see that there is a report printed successfully in a second, and this automatically emails it to the contact person of that invoice. Right, there's the document that we've already generated just before for the trials, and in a second we'll have the same email as an unread email because we just send it out right away through the Dox42 service. And there we are. So that's our invoice. And as you can also see in here, we have a document. It's a very simple one, but still all of this also gets automated in Word. So we have a Word document that's the base for this, and attached we'll find the sales invoice, the very same that we've just seen directly in Finance and Operations. Right, the second output I mentioned was the direct integration into SharePoint. And once you generate such a document, there is an archive setup that we've, in this case, configured to be automatically saving it to SharePoint. And in our SharePoint, you see there's also already a library for the templates, but there's also an output library that you can define for yourself. And we have, in this case, chosen the Dynamics365 Finance and Operations documents. If you decide to have different libraries for sales, invoice, for whatever documents you want, of course you can do so. In this case, it's just one where we store all of them. We filter this. About a minute ago, when we sent the email, there was the last automated archiving that we did. And there you see the same document again with landscape and portrait switch, as well as with the data integration that we did in the template. Speaking of the template.
All right, thanks, Johannes. Then I'm going to take over with the template design part of this live demo. So we are here, as Johannes already mentioned, in our SharePoint Dynamics 365 site, and we store all of our templates that we generate from Finance Operations within this library. FO templates And the document you've just seen that Johannes generated, the report, was a sales invoice. And we're going to open this right now in our app to look at it a little bit closer. All right. In here, we also have different languages, which can be triggered from finance and operations, depends on which language is being used. Quickly gonna put in my credentials in here. Choose SharePoint Online. So what I'm gonna do right now, this is what most template designers would do. So a template designer, that would be about 2 to 10 people in a company. They would have access to this library and permissions to edit templates within this library. So right here, we do have our Dox42 add-in. I'm not gonna describe it already in detail. First, I'm just gonna generate this report locally, as most template designer would do it to test the template. All right. Obviously, with the template design being done in Microsoft Office, this is a huge advantage that we have, is that all Word functionalities come with. So I'm going to view those two documents side by side so you can see the differences. Right here on the right-hand side, you can see our template. On the left, the generated report. As you can see up here already, the blue data fields transformed into the address, in this case, coming from finance and operations. And here, what we can also do are tables that are automatically expanded. So if I'm opening this mark, this we call automate range. So we can define this table to be repeated for a certain data source. In this case, it's the sales invoice line. So the table is being expanded for each line there is. Only, there's a condition combined though, only if there is something in the field name. So only if this product exists, really. Okay, let's go on. Also, we can see here, for example, this text block is not shown in the generated report. This is because there's another condition that was obviously not fulfilled. So here it says only show this when the invoice amount is bigger than 0. Okay, in this case, this is not the case. This is why this was left out. Also, as you can see, the different kinds of data we can integrate into our reports. Right here, if I open this data field, this is our data field explorer, where you can easily drag and drop your data from. And here you can see this is defined as a Word document. So here, this advertisement is defined as a Word document. It's a Word document that is stored in the same SharePoint library. So this doc path basically means that it's stored in the same library as the template is. So when we look into the SharePoint library real quick again, here you can see this is the ad. This is the document that is being inserted into our report. So this is like for a marketing department, for example, can separately work on this anytime, just needs the permission. And then when generating the report, it is automatically being inserted. Obviously the right one, so the up-to-date ad in this case. If we look into this data field, for example, you can see another data type, date time. So for this date time, you can work with different cultures as well. Here you can see the culture is dynamically drawn from a data field, but this could also be just static, let's say, one second. Let's delete this. For example, English UK. So it would use that kind of format. Also, you can choose from all kinds of different formats. For example, image, date time, we've seen this here. and also PowerPoint, image, PDF, Word document you've seen with the ad, but also barcodes. We do have about 30 barcodes out of the box you can choose from right in here. So any kind of data field can be defined as a barcode, for example. All right, you're probably wondering, all right, one thing I forgot to mention, right here you can see the switch from portrait to landscape. This is a Word functionality. This is one of our big advantages we have when working with Microsoft Office as well. You can also work with section and page breaks, which allows us to switch here and also condition those page and section breaks, for example. That's another feature we do offer with Dox42. So by now you're probably wondering, where do I connect my data? Where does my data come from? So this happens in here in our data map designer. I'm gonna open this real quick to show you. We do have two data sources to connect with our finance and operations. For one, this data source, the sales invoice. It's gonna take maybe a few seconds to open this, but you can see in a second in there, you can, exactly right here, you can connect to your finance and operations. We use a dynamic connection file. You can also use a crypto data source for your password, and then choose from your reports, the reports that you have chosen to be available for Dox42. If you remember what Johannes showed you before within the setup within your finance operations. So you can choose your report and then also choose from your tables. Also, you can either choose just leave all data fields within your template, or decide to just choose a few specific ones that you will need for your report to make to grant higher usability. Also, always you can preview your data to see if that worked. Let's just do this real quick. And here you can see all the data fields that are being integrated into your Dox42 template. This was the data source for reports and tables, but as Johannes mentioned already, you can also integrate your finance and operations entities and also custom entities. So within the O data source, that's what you do. You choose from your entities and custom entities, and then you can also link them to reports and tables. All right, so much to the template design. I'm done with my part. I would say let's go on to a quick Q&A session and look at the questions that have been asked.
All right, let's check. Perfect. So the first question is, can there also be a hybrid scenario? So for example, if we have the documents, for example, in SharePoint Online, but the Dox42 server on premise, I'm thinking that's probably the question. Yes, absolutely, we can do so. And yeah, the Dox42 server itself can either communicate with the cloud or with the on-premise installation. Right. Another question, how does this work with AX? Yeah, very similarly. So basically the integration that we've just shown you is also the same in AX 2012. So if you want to see this with AX, just let us know. We're happy to set up a demo after as well, of course. Anything else? 2 more minutes. All right, well, then that's probably the perfect point to yeah, let you know that we are going to be in Barcelona. So in March, there is the Extreme Summit in Barcelona. Yeah, we're very happy to be there. It's a very cool community event as well as the Extreme. So the combination of both the Community Summit and the Extreme 365. Stop by at our booth. Yeah, we can do the demo then more individually, of course, as we did today. And the last part of today, yeah. Thanks a lot. We had great fun. If there's any information that you still need from us, just let us know. We're also going to do a lot of webinars soon. So there's the BC webinar soon, I think next week. If you check out our website, you will see this there. Thank you very much for your attention. Also, thanks, Denise.
Yeah, thank you. We've had a good time. And please let us know if you have any further questions, couldn't think of right now, or anything else.
All right. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.